Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Dave Cam from ibeamconsulting.com, and today we are going to talk about Google Analytics for my little WordPress website that I'm using as a bit of a sandbox for doing Google Analytics work, Google Search Console, and some SEO tools. So it's going to be an ongoing series. I've already got a couple of videos in the can on this channel for it. So this is video number 3. It's really intended for anybody with a small business website. In this case, it might be a visual arts website related to a photography business or anything with a portfolio, something of that nature. But really, any small business, small WordPress website could potentially benefit from what we're going to go through today. And we are going to focus on using the Universal Analytics property that I have set up and have had set up for a long time for this particular website. I've got data going back for a few years now. We'll look at the last 2+ years of data for this site. I do have Google Analytics 4 set up for the site, but that's running in parallel. We're not going to focus on that today. I do have a previous video that covers how I installed that, how I upgraded to that. But for today, since we need historical data, we're going to be using the Universal Analytics, and we'll look at all the main areas, mostly priority areas. We're going to skip over some things, but we'll look at the high points for this particular website. So I hope this is helpful. If you're new to Google Analytics in general, or web analytics in general, then hopefully this will be especially helpful for you guys. And if you have a photography website or again, a visual arts website or a small business website, and you're rusty in the area of analytics, then hopefully this will benefit you as well. Okay, here we go. This is the main analytics home screen for Universal Analytics for this particular website. If you're not familiar with the site, I did another video that does a little bit of a walkthrough. It's a little mostly portfolio centric travel photography site, and a few sections here. There's a whole video, a fairly brief walkthrough of this site, also on this YouTube channel. I'll link to that below. But this is the target website. And again, I've had Google Analytics installed for several years, and we've got a lot of data here. My intent is not to go through this home screen in great detail. It really acts as a bit of a dashboard for the entire set of analytics. You can change the time frame, etc., and other things on this particular dashboard, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I also do not have a lot of customizations. I don't have really any customizations for the analytics environment for this site, so there's really nothing to go through here. If there were people on the site today, you would see it here, the real-time view. Nobody's on it at the moment. Nobody's been on it for the last 30 minutes. So there's really nothing to show here, but if you're new to this area, just be aware that you can see location information, traffic sources, content, events, and even conversions if you've got goals set up. You can see that in real time if you've got a very active website. Occasionally I pop in here and I see somebody on it from somewhere in the world, and that's always great. So real-time view is kind of interesting, but for today's demo, for today's video, we're not going to hang out there. We're going to spend most of our time in the audience area and in the acquisition and behavior reports. So let's look at that. Let's do a quick look at an overview. We'll load up. First thing I want to do, I want to change this date range. We're going to go back to the beginning of 2019. So it's really going to show us 2 and a little bit more than 2 years of data. And here you can see the timeline showing users, the audience overview report. And so it sort of bumps along here. These spikes of activity are telltale signs that you've got some spammy data coming in, or some bot traffic maybe that's triggering Google Analytics. In some case, it's spammy referral data. So if your own Google Analytics shows these spikes, there are ways to filter that out. We're not going to actually do that filtering today, but there are ways to get rid of that data. But this is what the audience overview looks like. Users by country, etc. A pie chart of new versus returning. Also new visitors. You get some metrics here. If you're familiar with Google Analytics, then you've undoubtedly seen. For one thing that kind of catches my eye for this site is how the bounce rate was sort of high, and it dipped down for a number of months through most of last year, and then it back up again last couple. So that would probably be something worth exploring further. But just be aware that you can click on any of these areas here, and you can pull up a graph that zeroes in and focuses in on that particular area. So that's about it for the audience overview. Again, probably familiar territory if you have spent time with Google Analytics before. Next, what I want to look at is not so much this stuff here. Let's look geographically and look at location information. Get a little bit more data on that. Here you see a graphical depiction. The darker blue color indicates higher traffic volume. There's a lot of countries represented here. And if you go down further, you can of course see the kind of linear top-down listing, and US, Canada, and Mexico. A lot of my image content is from Mexico, so I'm not surprised to see reasonably strong audience coming out of Mexico. Now, if you're not familiar with secondary dimension, this is really handy. One of the things that you want to start to play with as you get more advanced with analytics. So we're going to look at this. We'll see that Pinterest becomes or is a very large percentage of traffic. Here, it coming out of Mexico. Here's another Pinterest.com.mx domain traffic source. If we go to 25 rows instead of the default 10, we'll pick up Baidu, search engine out of China. We see Pinterest out of France, Pinterest out of the UK, a little bit of Facebook. And then this guy here, website bot traffic.xyz, that is a spammy bot referral source. So that's one that you'd probably want to clear out with some additional filtering to get rid of that from the data feed. So that is just adding a secondary dimension to the country breakdown. Let's look at the mobile overview because this is interesting too. What we'll see here when it comes up is that we, again, for overall traffic, we see desktop dominating, but mobile is not far behind. And by mobile here, we really mean smartphones. So overall, we got a lot of mobile traffic coming in, which means as a website owner, we want to make sure that our website is mobile responsive, that it looks great on smartphones. And in this case, it's dominated by Apple devices. But another thing to do here, again, secondary dimension. And if we just look at the source for this breakdown, what's going to be interesting is that mobile interest is the dominant traffic. So that's pretty interesting. That means there's people out there using Pinterest on their smartphones and they're finding my content that way. So again, making sure that your site is represented well on Pinterest. In this particular case with a travel photography site, that makes a ton of sense. Here again, we see this spammy bot traffic. This is spammy referral traffic. And again, we could filter that out. Here we see Pinterest specific to Mexico down here. And then if we look at the devices, then we will see Apple iPhone as the dominant mobile device. Got this sort of non-specific not set here. We got iPads showing up. Got some Huawei devices coming in, Samsung. We want to make sure that our stuff looks good on mobile devices, generally speaking. And we want to make sure that it provides a good experience on Apple iPhones and iPads. Got a lot of traffic coming from those devices. So that's what you can find, mobile area. I'm not going to worry about these other areas here. If you have used Google Analytics, maybe you've looked at these diagrams before. These are sort of a graphical left to right flowchart description of how people are coming in. You can pull this down and you can change sort of your baseline variable or parameter here, but it just gives you a little bit of a visual view of how users are flowing through your website. And you can isolate on different traffic paths if you want to just by clicking. These red vertical things are the drop-offs, see where people are dropping off. So it's not totally intuitive, these graphs, but if you spend a little bit of time getting more familiar with them and drilling down, then there is some potentially some interesting insights on these flow graphs, flow diagrams. So that's it for the audience overview. That was very quick. There's other stuff to look at, obviously, here, but I'm just looking at some of the high points for this website. So now we're going to go into the acquisition area and we'll do a quick acquisition overview. We see a nice pie chart here. We see social, which we now know is dominated by Pinterest, with, I think, Facebook in a distant second place. And then we've got organic, which is mostly Google, a little bit of Baidu coming out of China, and then also a little bit of Bing traffic, but mostly Google. And then we've got direct, some of which is spammy garbage. And we've got some referral traffic, some of which is also spammy garbage. And we can see that in the peaks here that typically come in on a single day and then they go away. Acquisition, behavior, and conversions data here on the overview. Conversions only works if you've got goals set up. I do not have specific analytics goals set up for this site, but if I did, then that would show up here in conversions area. What I typically will do in the acquisition areas, not really so much the overview, I will go into the all traffic channels area, and here again we see social, we see organic, direct, and referral. So just a different representation of the data that we saw before. And if you drill through, say on the social channel, what we will see here is Pinterest again, and Facebook, a little bit of Twitter. So channels is interesting to look at. Source medium sometimes is interesting to look at. And you see Pinterest.com as the source, and then the medium is referral. Google as the source, and medium is organic. Direct and none can also be a source in medium. And here we see this crappy traffic here from website bottraffic.xyz. We've got Pinterest out of Mexico. We've got Pinterest out of Spain. Pinterest in the UK. A little organic coming out of China. Baidu sometimes shows up as referral, not as organic. So that's kind of interesting. And then a little bit of Bing traffic. So again, you can add secondary dimensions if you want to. And I highly recommend you get comfortable with that if you're not doing that yet. In the Google Ads space, if I was running ad campaigns using pay-per-click or display ads or something like that with Google, then of course I would have campaign information to look at and search queries and things like that. But I'm not running any paid ads for this site, so this is not populated, so we won't spend time there. If we went to Search Console, which I'm definitely interested in because I'm going to be doing more SEO work, first of all, you should know that you can connect your Google Search Console to your Google Analytics. And if you do so, then you will find that you actually have data cross-populates from Search Console back into your analytics environment. And in this case, we can see the landing pages that people are coming onto through organic search. And you get the typical GSE data, impressions, clicks, click-through rate, and average position. That comes straight in from Google Search Console. And then this other stuff, behavior, conversions, etc., is joined to that data, and that comes from Google Analytics. So here we have a data set here that covers both Search Console and Google Analytics data, one kind of integrated view. And you can see I did not join these. I did not add Google Search Console to my Google Analytics property until September of 2019. That's why it starts here and then it comes along here. That's the landing page environment under Search Console. You can look at countries, you can look at devices, you can look at queries. And the queries part is interesting because, again, these are actual user queries. Bring this over to 25 just to look at a few more. And in particular, we've got a lot of stuff out of Mexico that related to the Maya culture, Maya themed ancient Mayan things that are in there. We've got something out of Naxos, which is a Greek island. We've got a little bit of Croatia, Vernazza, Italy, and the Cinque Terre. More out of Mexico, a lot of Riviera Maya stuff. And we'll see. In fact, I can show you what they actually find when they search on that. They come up here and they find this figure. This is actually a little post. This cool little Mayan sculpture that I photographed sometime while in the Cancun region. And then there was another one in that same area, this guy here. So both of these got real popular, not real popular, but relatively popular on Pinterest. They got shared around quite a bit, which is where a lot of the Pinterest-driven traffic is coming from pins with these photos. And then when people click on those pins, they come through to this page. So that's why Pinterest all over the place is a major source of traffic. People have found those photos, and they're also finding them organically, which is what we're seeing here. You don't see all the click data, by the way. Just because we're not seeing click data on some of these does not mean that they're not actually generating clicks. Google Search Console does not share absolutely all of the click data. So that's a quick look at GSC information within Google Analytics. We're going to look at that in the next video a lot more closely because I'm going to be going into GSC natively and directly in my next video. So now let's look at the social side of things. We already know that Pinterest is huge. There's a whole social section of Google Analytics that is right here. I would say for visual artists, for photographers, etc., with portfolios. You might be sharing things on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest, etc. And so this is potentially very important data for visual arts, really for other businesses as well, but I think especially for visual things. You can look at additional information here, and of course you can add secondary dimensions. Let's look at mobile data as a secondary dimension. We see yes and no, and mobile Pinterest is higher, greater number than the desktop Pinterest. And in fact, that's true for Facebook. So again, reinforces the point that mobile devices are super important, and you have to make sure that your site's looking good on those as well. Let's see, you can do another users flow thing just specific to social. And again, you see this kind of left to right flow diagram. You can see all the traffic coming from Pinterest to a particular page, which is one of those Mayan sculpture photos. Okay, so you can sort of see the flow. Sometimes they go to other pages. Usually they go to the kind of the target page and then they drop off. Sometimes they go through further and further. So that's always good. Further engagement with the site is always a good thing to see. So that's it for social. Next up, let's look at campaigns. If I had, let's say, email campaigns with tagged UTM parameters on the target links, then I might see something here. I don't really have any campaigns going. I don't have email campaigns going. I don't have Google Ads campaigns going. So you're not going to see anything here for this particular site, but certainly if you're a business website or whatever and you're running some paid campaigns, or email campaigns with tagged target links, UTM parameters, then you're going to see that here. Paid keywords you're going to see for Google Ads, etc. Organic keywords, you'll see a little bit of data here. Get a lot of this not provided, not set, because Google doesn't typically pass the search query through in this way. In other cases, the search engine will pass it through. So that's available to you. It's really, for search queries, you really want to go to a Google Search Console, maybe Bing, Webmaster Tools, but typically Google Search Console is going to give you the majority of the insights. So next we're going to go to behavior. We're going to jump out of the acquisition area. We're going to look to behavior. We'll do a quick overview there. This looks a lot like the other audience overview thing, where now we're looking at page views here. See the total page views over time. The bounce rate is the same as it was before, pages, etc. So this is kind of interesting, but I find it more interesting to go into the all pages section. And I'll show you a little trick here that I use sometimes. So here you can see, again, in descending order of page view count, you can see the different pages of interest. Again, the Riviera Maya stuff tends to dominate here. That's a fairly main page. Got the photo and a post out of Athens, Greece, which got some attention. Croatia is a destination of great interest for a lot of folks, so not surprised to be seeing that. Whereas Greek islands, who doesn't like the Greek islands? Now, one thing you can do here, which is kind of neat, is if your blog posts are set up in this kind of a URL structure, /blog/, you can do a quick search on that, and you can isolate this view for just blog posts. And if you're a blogger, this is a great simple way to just look at your blog content. If you want to look at non-blog content, you can use an advanced filter. Now you're going to exclude pages containing /blog/ in the URL. We're going to apply that filter, and now you see all the non-blog pages in descending page view order. And of course, you get different metrics along the way here. Interestingly, the average time on page for the non-blog stuff is about a minute. I think it was a little better than that for the blog content, which would not surprise me because there's actually perhaps more to read there. Yeah, average time on page for the blog content, about 4 minutes. So bounce rate's pretty good at under 60%. So I kind of like that. So anyway, there's a little trick on using a simple filter to zero in on specific page types. You can do a content drill down. You can look at landing pages. By the way, on the all pages report, where it says entrances, that's basically where these pages were landing pages, or the original page of the session. You can also see that more specifically here. And here's landing pages. And as a secondary dimension here, you might, just for fun, do a source medium secondary dimension And again, what we're going to see, a lot of Pinterest, some direct, some of which we think or know is spammy direct traffic. Here's some spammy referral traffic, but then we've got some legitimate Pinterest out of Spain, Google organic, more Pinterest. We expand the table a little bit more. Here's the Pinterest out of Mexico, Pinterest France, Baidu out of China, Pinterest out of Canada, etc., etc. So you can really get a good breakdown. And again, it shows the advantage of using a secondary dimension in your analytics data and in your analytics review. So that's it for landing pages. Just again, very quick overview here, folks. You do want to care about site speed for both desktop and mobile. There are some things here that looks like I need to look into. This is too long of a page load time. So I'd probably want to look into that, see what pages in particular might be slow. I can see the browsers that are potentially skewing that number up. And so I'd want to investigate that further. I'd probably want to use other tools, though, to look at that, like GT metrics or page speed insights or things like that. This is just some very high-level summary data. It doesn't look like it's based on a ton of samples over the course of 2 years. So again, it's an indicator that I might have some speed issues. So that's a whole area that you can look at. Conversions. If I had goals set up for the site, then I would have some conversion data to look at as well, because a conversion happens when a goal is achieved or a goal is converted. We don't have any goals set up for the site currently, which is why I'm getting this little information page. We also don't have e-commerce set up on the site. I'm not really doing any big e-commerce off the site, but if I was a business site, either B2B or B2C, and I had e-commerce ambitions, then I'd probably want to have this set up. So I'm not going to look at multi-channel functions right now or attribution or this kind of stuff. So that's really about it. I just wanted to take a little time to walk through the analytics environment for this website. So there we have it. In the next video, what I would like to do is jump out of analytics and go directly into Google Search Console and then take a more detailed look there. All right, so that's it. I hope that was informative. If you have questions, definitely get at me in the comment section below the video. I'll put a couple of links in the description area as well for some related content that I previously posted. With the next video, which will be more detail, Google Search Console on the exact same website, we will go from there. So again, thanks. Appreciate you guys joining. If you like the video, please let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you really like it. If you want to subscribe and if you want to hit the little bell notification for the next video when I crank that out, then you'll get notified of that as well. So until then, everybody be well, take care of yourselves, and I will catch you all on the next video. Catch you later. Bye-bye.